So the point is there is a problem, but what Liz Truss's solutions try to do is they try to make the problem worse.
Liz Truss says she wasn't warned that her mini budget could have disastrous consequences and has blamed left-wing economic institutions for not giving her a vote of confidence to implement her agenda. In her 4,000-word essay, we know you've read every single word, Liz Truss wrote,
At no point during any of the preparations for the mini budget had any concerns about liability-driven investments or LDIs and the risk they pose to bond markets been mentioned at all to me, the Chancellor, or any of our teams by officials at the Treasury.
But the Cambridge economist Charles Reid says this is simply not true because he personally got in touch with the then Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng to warn against a move like this. He joins us now. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning.
Explain what happened then. So why did you sniff something out and send a letter in the first place?
So just to introduce myself, I'm an expert and I've been researching for the past 10 years the relationship between British economic policy and financial stability.
Okay.
And I've recently published 2 books on the subject. So I was invited to speak to a group of civil servants at the Treasury in early September. At the same time, one of my colleagues was Kwasi Kwarteng's British Economic History supervisor at Cambridge University when Kwasi was a undergraduate many years ago, and he recommended that I write to Kwarteng about my research and any useful conclusions it might have for the big issues that he then faced. And in my letter, the attached paper and the lecture, I pointed out that whatever the government did to deal with inflation, whatever the government did to give it a economic stimulus, it needed to make sure it did it in a way which did not cause financial instability. And I did point out in the paper that the big risk was to the non-banking financial sector, i.e. the shadow banks, and it turned out the pension funds were adopting a strategy, this LDI strategy, similar to the shadow banks. So I did warn that an economic stimulus, I did warn that their suggested policies for deal with inflation, which which was to just add more economic stimulus, would cause not only interest rates to rise, as Rishi Sunak warned, but also that would cause a financial crisis in the non-bank financial sector. So the warning that so therefore the idea that the government was given no warning that there was that there was a possibility of financial instability, that's fundamentally misleading.
And is it possible, though, that you warned it was there to be seen, but the Treasury officials didn't warn her? Is it plausible that nobody in the Treasury said to Kwasi Kwarteng and Liz Truss, if you do this, if you promise unfunded tax cuts, if you go down this road of stimulus, there will be problems in pensions? Could they have foreseen the specific LDI problem in pensions, do you think?
Well, I think let's take that in 2 steps. So, was Liz Truss personally warned? Well, Kwarteng was personally warned. Now, the thing is that it might be possible Treasury officials didn't warn Liz Truss, but seeing that one of her first moves in office was to fire their boss, the permanent secretary, Tom Scholar, you would have to be very brave as a civil servant to give her any warnings.
So she didn't want to. You think it's plausible that she didn't want to hear any warnings?
She didn't want to hear any warnings, and her Telegraph piece was rather like, firing Tom Scholar was rather like taking the battery out the fire alarm, and then the Telegraph piece is wondering in retrospect why half the house burnt down, and so you've got to be quite critical, and I think your listeners need to be quite critical of somebody who surrounds themselves by yes people and to somebody who doesn't want to listen about warnings or deal with any criticism or deal with any even friendly warnings or warnings which are trying to be helpful about their policies. Do we really want somebody like that as Prime Minister? Do we really want somebody like that even remotely close to running the top of the government?
Yeah.
On the second issue, which is about LDI and pensions more directly, Now, the point is that financial regulators only really deal with what caused the last blow up. So the last blow up in 2008 was the banking sector. So the regulators have introduced regulations to deal with that. And my letter said it explicitly that the next sector to blow up won't be a sector you expect. It will be a shadow banking sector. And so, yes, somebody didn't say specifically LDI, but the point is that that generally it was warned to the government that there was a risk of financial instability from a shadow banking sector.
Is there a danger? Is there a danger here, though, Charles, at all? That you've argued very cogently on the specifics here, but is there a danger that the net effect of all of this is that orthodoxy will reign unchecked for years and years? That the notions of seeking radical solutions will not be essayed. The idea of pursuing growth, shifting the economy, jolting things along will now never be attempted because of what happened in that short period under Liz Truss.
Now, actually, it turns out that I am quite a critic of current orthodoxy. The current orthodoxy is something called the New Keynesian consensus. So this believes in central bank independence. This believes in inflation targeting. This believes in stimulus in times when inflation is below target. It was developed in the 1990s under Ken Clark and Gordon Brown. But the problem with that consensus is that it's got a blind spot. It doesn't look at financial stability, and because the Bank of England was only interested in keeping to its inflation target. It's one of the things which caused the 2008 crisis. And actually, economists have calculated that half, if not more than half, of the growth which has been lost since 2008 is a result of the 2008 crisis. So the point is there is a problem, but what Liz Truss's solutions try to do is they try to make the problem worse. So how to deal with the economic consequences of financial instability, i.e. the 2008 crisis, is not to cause more financial instability. So she's dealing with the problem. She's dealing with the problem by making it worse.
And
that's the problem with her policies. Yes, she says she wants growth policies, but instead she blows the economy up. That is making the problem worse. That's not making the problem better.
Did you find, just emotionally, what did you find? Did you find it shameless what she was writing? How would you characterize the sort of tone of what she was doing, or your reaction to it?
Well, I mean, this is the opposite of the mea culpa. This is sort of try to blame everyone else for
the mea culpa.
Indeed. I think some people have compared it to, and I think some private eye journalists feel that their work has been slightly plagiarized, and that they did actually write a satire of her trying to blame everyone out, trying to blame left-wing markets and some left-wing conspiracy in the bond markets at the time as a satire article, and so that they feel that some of the points in her piece might have been lifted from that. Now, I don't think it is, but it just shows you how what she's written reads more like she's trying to blame conspiracy theories, and I think that's very corrosive for democracy, for public discourse in this country. If former politicians blame all their failings and the design failings of their policies on conspiracy theories, I mean, this is going on a road towards Trumpism, basically.
It's an interesting point, that Charles, the rise of conspiracies more generally. Really interesting to talk to you today, Charles. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
That's Charles Reid, there, economic historian at Cambridge University. Do let us know what you